filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counting me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I'm paying the cost, I'm in it to win. Yeah. Refuse. Mine, it can't be diffused. If you ain't thinking the same, then we playing by different rules. You can't see the vision, we living at different views. Until we complete the mission, keep getting up, never snooze. I walked a mile in my shoes, had the mind of a fool, chasing diamonds and jewels. Trust me, I was confused. Started minding my business and used my mind as a tool. Ended up finding my purpose and found the time to get to it. They told me I couldn't do it, they told me I couldn't make it. They sold it, could never break it. I sadly mistaken, I need a piece of the pie. I want it so bad I can taste it. They told me like Toby, keep on running toes, they gon' take them. Refuse to lose, built to win. Apply myself, I filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counting me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I pay for the cost, I'm winning to win. Yeah. Refuse to lose, I'm built to win. Apply myself, I filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counting me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I'm paying the cost, I'm in it to win. Yeah. Refuse.
Welcome back to CZC. I'm your gracious host, Carl, and I'm back with another episode. And today we got to recap Bowl Week 2. Now, with this recap, we got 16 games to go over, and we got major performances. Now, some games were blowouts. We're going to move straight through them. Some games were really good, and we're going to talk about, and some games were blowouts that turned out really good. So, yeah, we'll talk about all those. But what a night of football we had. What a day in football we had, man. Just an excellent day of football. But we're going to hop right into the 16 bowl games so I can hop my butt to the gym. But anyway, we're going to start with the game that started it off this week, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, which Washington State pretty much dominated Utah State 34-21. They tied a record 30 first downs, famous for the famous Idaho Bowl record of first downs in the game. They had 600 plus total yards of offense. Now, Zevi Eckhouse, he did have 3 interceptions to go with the 3 touchdowns he had on the day, and he threw 2 of them pretty early in the first half, but Utah State could not capitalize on any of the 2 picks that he threw in the first half, leading to a missed field goal, and the other time was a punt. And Washington State was able to score first, even though they did have those 2 turnovers on the wrong page. But yeah, that was the beginning of the game. I believe Washington State rattled off like 14 straight or something like that. But yeah, Washington State shut out Utah State in the first half. It was just bad offense. Utah State couldn't get anything going, whether on the ground, whether through the air. And when they did get a first down, maybe 2, that was it. They couldn't sustain a drive to save the game in the first half. Now, second half, I feel like when the game was kind of out of reach, they started to get stuff going more so, probably because Washington State was more so playing things in front of them. It was kind of, to me, in garbage time. But overall, Washington State, like I said, just dominated this game on both sides of the ball. The defense was just flying around. The offense was high tempo, like the OC said it would be. High tempo, high paced, slinging the ball around the yard, running the ball as well. They had success on the ground as well. Don't get it wrong. And like I said, Utah State just couldn't get any offense going. They scored 20 straight points until Utah State finally scored a touchdown. So the score was 20-0 at one point before Utah State finally scored a touchdown. Then they kind of like traded touchdowns. I think at 27-7, Utah State scored, and then Washington State scored again. And then Utah State scored one more time, making it 34-21, something like that. But this game wasn't as close as the score indicates at all. This game was really a blowout. Washington State, like I said, dominated Utah State. So shout out to Washington State for winning the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, and their head coach has now moved on. I forgot what job he took, but he has moved on. And we move on ourselves to a bowl game that actually went from an 18-point game to a really close one, the Boca Raton Bowl. This game was Tuesday. Toledo loses to Louisville 27-22. Now, last year, Toledo was a part of that 6-overtime bowl game against Pitt, which we'll discuss later. This year, they were in the Boca Raton Bowl, like I said, against Louisville. And Louisville went up at one point 21-3. Now, this wasn't a game where Louisville got whatever they wanted offensively. No, Toledo's defense came to play. I will say that. Now, Louisville did score, I believe, on the opening drive. Yeah, I want to say, Louisville scored on the opening drive. But then it was like Toledo's defense kind of like settled in, got situated, and they were to Louisville then scored a touchdown after Toledo missed a field goal to start the second half. So I want to say the score was 7-3 at halftime. Yeah, it was 7-3 at halftime, I believe. Then Louisville, like I said, they scored a touchdown. They score again. They go up as much as 21-3. But then Toledo starts battling back. Toledo scores touchdown, 2 straight touchdowns of their own. And I believe they get the 2-point to make it 21-18, if I'm not mistaken. Then Toledo, no, that's not what happened. But they did score. They did cut it to a 1-possession game. Then Louisville will then score. And that's really when Toledo cut it to a 1-possession game, that's when Louisville started to figure it out on the ground. That's when Isaac Brown and Keywan Brown got really going. Now, the opening drive, they got going on the ground as well, but then Toledo figured it out. But in that fourth quarter, that's when Louisville refigured out the ground game, and they got it going on the ground, and they were able to run out the game. Or they were able just to establish the run, bleed the clock, and hold on to win the game. But make no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Toledo did fight to the very end. Shout out to you, Mr. Kotoon. Yo, shout out to you for joining. But Louisville for sure was able to pull away. Well, I don't even want to say pull away, but they were able to escape. I'll say that with the ground game late in the fourth quarter with Keywan Brown and Isaac Brown, which they were questionable to even play, let alone both of them. So shout out to Louisville for getting the win. Miller Moss last game as a Louisville Cardinal is a Boca Raton Bowl win for them. Shout out my boy Joe in the comments with the fire emojis. Appreciate you for tuning in, my boy. A big bowl game coming up this week for you, Texas-Michigan Cheez-It Bowl. But we move on to the New Orleans Bowl, which this bowl game started off super slow for Western Kentucky, but they also came back to win this one. Now, I forgot to tell y'all, I did pick Utah State in that famous Idaho Potato Bowl. I did lose. I picked Louisville in the Boca Raton Bowl. I did win, and I did pick Western Kentucky in the New Orleans Bowl. Western Kentucky were down, I want to say 6-10 at halftime. They really didn't establish any offense in that first half under Rodney Tisdale at quarterback. Their first 3 points came off of like a blunder by USM. I want to say it was a turnover on downs. They didn't get a 4th and 1. And then they were able to establish something before the half to get a field goal. But other than that, they weren't really getting any offense situated. While USM, Southern Miss, they were getting offense. Sometimes they would stall out. Sometimes they wouldn't. But they had some offense going. Now, in that second half, they turned to Maverick McIver. Rodney Tisdale did get hurt a little bit. Maverick McIver came in. Tisdale was perfectly fine to come back, but McIver found the spark that they said, hey, we're going to keep him in this game. And they turned it around that second half under Maverick McIver, outscoring Southern Miss 21-6 in that second half. He definitely was the spark they needed. Him and Matthew Henry were connecting. It was just Maverick McIver came in and gave them something that Rodney Tisdale couldn't. I believe Rodney Tisdale is a better dual threat, obviously, but Maverick McIver is the better passer of the two, and that's why I think that Western Kentucky offense clicked better under Maverick McIver, and the defense stepped up with the offense figuring things out, and they were able to come back to win 27-16, again, holding Southern Miss to 6 points in the second half. 3 points in the second half. It was 6-13 at halftime, but definitely got to shout out Maverick McIver for just having the poise to come in as a backup, not to be salty because he was the starter coming into the year. He did get hurt, and that's kind of how he lost it, but he was perfectly fine, and they went with Tisdale to start the game. Having that poise coming in and leading them to a win for Western Kentucky to win the New Orleans Bowl. And shout out my boy Joe. Safe travels, be safe on that road. We'll move on to this bowl, man. This bowl got me. The Frisco Bowl, where I did say there is a chance that Ohio wins. I actually said Ohio can actually win this game, but I went with UNLV. Calandria is my guy. I thought it would be way more explosive offensively. Ohio defense did kind of look suspect towards the end of the year. Not to say they didn't have a good defense, but they weren't playing like it, in my opinion. And I just thought UNLV would put up a ton of points, but they did not. As you can see with the final score, 17-10. put up 10 points, and those 10 points came in what? The second half, I want to say in the fourth quarter. Calandra did have some bad turnovers. Those demons reared their ugly head in this matchup. And what I did say was Ohio could take advantage of them on the ground, and that's kind of what happened. Sia Bengarua, definitely in my opinion, MVP of this game. He had a monster. Not I want to say a monster day, but he had a very good day. I'll say that he had a very good day. But yeah, man, the first half was kind of sloppy. Both teams having multiple turnovers. Again, Calandra, I want to say he threw a red zone interception, if I'm not mistaken. But Ohio keeping that ball on the ground, they were able to score in the first half while UNLV got shut out in the first half. All the UNLV points came in the second half, and late in the ball game, they could not get it done. They had a chance to tie, and they just could not get it done. So shout out to Ohio. They were able to run out the last 4:45 when they got the ball. Not giving UNLV a second opportunity because they had a chance. They scored a touchdown. They got the ball back, had a chance to tie, take the lead. Did not do it. Ohio got the ball back with 4:45, and they ran it out. So shout out to Ohio for running out the rest of that clock and winning the Frisco Bowl. Excuse me, the Cure Bowl was Bowl week 1. Winning the Frisco Bowl in spite of their head coach being fired due to those nasty allegations. Man, Ohio is just a train that keeps on moving in the MAC. And I'm excited to see where this train leads next year. I want to say Navarro is a senior this year, so he's gone. But if he's not, if he is back again, I'm very excited for the future of Ohio football. And we'll move on to the lone game. On Christmas Eve, we had Cal. And this one says at Hawaii for a reason because this game was literally at Hawaii in the Hawaii Bowl. And this game, I picked Cal to win, and I was feeling on top of the world. Cal goes out there, scores 3 straight touchdowns, go up 21-0. I'm feeling good. But then I remember, this is Cal. I watched them blow leads. I watched them blow the lead to Duke. I watched them blow the lead to SMU, but they were able to come back and win after blowing the lead. I watched them blow a lead to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech went in overtime. So I'm like, dang, they can do this again. And sure enough, Cal blew another lead, being up 21-0 after 3 straight touchdowns in their first 3 drives. Hawaii scores 10 straight to end the half, making it 21-10. Then Hawaii holds Cal to 10 points in the second half. They really hold them 10 points throughout the last 3 quarters, because all 21. Well, the 21st point I want to say came in the second, but again, it was the first 3 drives. But after that, it was just locked down for a second. Hawaii actually takes the lead at one point. Cal takes the lead back at 31-28, and then Hawaii drives down the field. Micah Alejado actually gets hurt and has to come out the game, or his helmet comes off and he had to get out the game. And the backup throws a pass in between double coverage with 10 seconds left in the end zone for a touchdown to win the ball game 35-31. I did hate how this game ended, not on the field, but off the field with the little brawl at the end. A lot of people was like, oh, yeah, the little fight at the end. I don't like that, man. Let's win and lose with some class, man. Especially, the Hawaiians. I've heard that they're such great people. They're welcoming and stuff like that. So I don't know for myself, never been, but that's what I hear. So I was kind of disappointed in that, but great comeback win from Micah Alejado and the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. It was nice to see Alejado and JKS battle it out as 2 Hawaiian quarterbacks. And shout out to Profili Ashlock, who had a monster game. 14 catches on the day, over 100 yards, and I want to say 2 touchdowns. So he had a monster game. He's obviously a major performance, so you'll get his actual numbers when that segment comes up. But that was a great lone bowl game. Lone anything. That was the only sporting event on that day. Came on at 8 o'clock, and it was a masterpiece. So shout out to those teams for that. And then we move on to Friday as there was no Christmas bowls. And we start off with Central Michigan versus Northwestern. This game was actually at Ford Field, which is not too far from Mount Pleasant. I'm thinking like an hour and a half. Shout out my cousin again. She goes there. In the Game Above Sports Bowl, first bowl game Friday at noon, I want to say. And this game was 0-0 for a lot of the first half. And then Central Michigan turns the ball over 3 straight times. That leads to 3 straight touchdowns for Northwestern. And then the game just spiraled out of control. That's all you really need to know in this game. And then the second half comes, and Central Michigan fumbles again, and it's a scoop and score touchdown, putting the game definitely out of reach. They scored a touchdown. They each scored a touchdown later in the ball game. But at that point, the game was over. Shout out to the Northwestern defense for definitely giving that offense a spark by forcing those turnovers. Central Michigan defense, I want to shout out to them. They played a hell of a game. It's hard to defend 3 straight turnovers. It is. And when you kept it 0-0 in a straight up no turnover, no nothing game, gotta salute you there. They were playing great defense. It's just, man, the offense kind of really sold them for real. But congratulations to Northwestern winning the game above Sports Bowl under David Braun. And we move on to the Rate Bowl, which if you haven't seen it already, there's a reel out there created by Joe. Shout out Joe again. We were on the R2L main show talking about the topics at hand, which, by the way, I called that Texas went over the Chargers, by the way, Joe. Just letting you know. But anyway, yeah, so New Mexico, Minnesota was actually a very defensive battle. It was more of a defensive battle than I thought. I thought that while New Mexico definitely had a solid defense coming up into this game, according to the last few games, I just thought this Big Ten offensive line might be a little bit too much and they'd be able to move them. And that wasn't the case. It really wasn't. They did a really good job on Darius Taylor. Now, Darius Taylor is Darius Taylor. He's going to get his regardless. But they did a really good job on him. They did a really good job on pressuring Drake Lindsey. Drake Lindsey in the first, 4 or 5 drives, really the first half, I thought he was trying to throw a pick on purpose. Every pass that left his hand should have been intercepted. I was like, is he just, who paid him? What is he trying to? No, I'm joking, by the way. But he legit kept throwing balls that should have been intercepted. That part isn't a joke. I was joking about the who paid him part. But the passes he was throwing, it was just like he was trying to hit him in stride for a pick six. So he got that out there in system, though. And it became a back and forth game. Now, Minnesota did score a touchdown, I want to say late before half to go up 7-3. Or 7-6, excuse me. They were down 6-0. They went up 7-6. Then Javon Tracy broke one, I want to say, to make it 14-6. But right after the Minnesota Gophers scored their touchdown to go 14-6, the ensuing kickoff is returned to the crib and the 2-point conversion is made. I want to say Keegan Johnson caught it to make it 14-14. And then, we would get overtime at 14-14. New Mexico would get the ball first and have to settle for a field goal. And then Drake Lindsey throws a dime to Jalen Smith in double coverage for the touchdown on a post. And that's where you can see the reaction of that play on the reel, again, made by Joe. But this game was actually pretty defensive. It was pretty exciting to watch. I had to watch it on the side of making the R2L show. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. But it was a really good game, and it was a really great finish. It really was. And I did pick Minnesota to win that game. So shout out to Minnesota for that. And I also picked Northwestern to beat Central Michigan. And we got to move on to the last game of that Friday night, which I'm not gonna lie to you. I cut this off at halftime. UTSA spanks FIU 57-20. I did pick UTSA to win this game in the First Responder Bowl. Now, I will say this. FIU got off to a hot start. Went up 14-0. Scored a touchdown. Got a punt return after UTSA punt. Scored. And it looked like, whoa, UTSA, what's going on? But then UTSA gets the ball. They go right down the field to score. They get a stop. And then again, go right down the field to score. And then they just kept scoring. They kept scoring. They kept scoring. And then the next thing you know, UTSA will put up 38 straight points. And they would be up 38-14 like this. It went from 14-0 to 38-14. Then FIU would finally score their last touchdown. But then UTSA would score off the 2-point conversion. They would score 2 points, basically. I meant to say they would score a 2-pointer after the touchdown, making it 40-20. Then they would rattle off another 17 more. And this game was just a blowout, man. It was just UTSA offense was just way too much for this FIU defense. I feel like FIU also kind of went away from Keon Owens a little bit too much early. But again, it was just too much. And that's what I figured. I figured UTSA would just be a little too much, and it ended up being the case. So shout out to UTSA in this game. And we got to move on to the bowl game that made me never want to mess with Pitt again. Pitt and ECU. ECU wins the Go Bowling Military Bowl 23-17. And Pitt looked awful in this game. Defensively, they looked good until they got the lead. And as soon as Pitt got the lead, the next possession, ECU would take it right back. This game was awful for Pitt, man. Pitt could not score until Raphael Williams scored a touchdown before the half to go up 7-3. And then instantly Pitt would get the ball back out of halftime, and Mason Heichel would fumble, leading to an ECU Anthony Smith touchdown catch. I want to say this. Turnovers is a theme of this game. Pitt had 5 of them. 4 fumbles and a pick, including a muff punt by Kenny Williams, a fumble by Mason Heichel, a fumble, 2 fumbles, I want to say, by Jakarian Turner. So just the name of the game in this one was turnovers. 4 fumbles and a pick again. But again, Pitt gets the ball back, do nothing with it. ECU actually gets the ball up 14-10, and it looks like Marlon Gunn breaks a long run on 4th and 1 where he should have been tackled. Pitt does not make the tackle. He breaks it, but an inadvertent whistle is called, which I don't really know if I heard it or not. I think that's kind of crazy, but they bring it back off an inadvertent whistle, and if you're an ECU fan, you were pissed, and if you were a Pitt fan, you think, thank God, because how are we going to score 2 touchdowns to come back? And then the next play, Pitt forces a strip sack fumble, and I want to say Rasheem Biles took it back, or maybe Rasheem Biles forced it, but Pitt takes it back to the crib to go up 17-14. But I literally, in between that touchdown and ECU touchdown, went to go move my car from a place so it don't get towed, which only took 30 seconds, and came back in, and ECU was kicking an extra point. Anthony Smith broke loose again for another touchdown to go up 20 to, no, they went up 17-14 with that. Pitt went up 14-10. ECU went right back up 17-14 within a matter of a minute at the most. And then got the ball back, kicked 2 field goals, went up 2 possessions. Pitt would have to settle for a field goal late in the ball game, 17-23. They would get a 3 and out to get the ball back for the worst 50-second drive I have seen recently in college sports. It would be the worst 2-minute drive, but the Ravens did some terrible 2-minute drive work against the Steelers. But just awful, to the point where he didn't even get a throw off. On the last second Hail Mary situation, this man ran past the line of scrimmage and had to run and got 2 yards. Mason Heichel looked terrible in this game. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not really sold on Mason Heichel at all. I'm not. I know he gave him a 5-game win streak, whoop-de-doo. He didn't play nobody. When he played competition, he did not look good, and they lost. So I'm not really sold on Mason Heichel. Now, he could come back next season and prove me wrong. Won't be the first time. But as we speak at this moment, did not like what I seen out of Mason Heichel in this ball game at all. Now, I will say it didn't help. Receivers had some drops. His receivers did not help him. But overall, did not like what I seen. But we'll move on to the Pinstripe Bowl, where Penn State beats Clemson 22-10. Now, again, if you remember, these were my preseason national championship contenders. These were my national championship game members. I had these in the national championship game. And I had Clemson winning. But when this bowl game was announced and I had to do my preview, I did pick Penn State to win because I felt like Clemson has been horrible all year on offense, which they were again horrible yesterday. And because I felt like Penn State had a lot of their defense. So Penn State won 22-10. Clemson will only score a touchdown in the 4th quarter. When Penn State and Clemson traded 4th quarters, which, by the way, Penn State scored their 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter too. Their first one, I believe, the Trevor Pena broke the game open, in my opinion. It was 9-3. Scored a touchdown, made it 16-3. 15-3, excuse me, rather, because I think they missed the extra point. Well, they went for 2. Yeah, they went for 2 and didn't get it. But yeah, Penn State, scored a field goal and then one more before the half to make it 63. Clemson did get a field goal late in the second half, but Penn State hit one before halftime to go up 6-3. Then I believe they hit one to start the half, and then they got the touchdown to start the 4th quarter. Clemson would match it, but then Penn State would match their touchdown, and then Clemson would get the ball again and get sacked on 4th down, and Penn State would just run out the clock. Another terrible game offensively for Clemson. They said this is what Clemson's worst record since 2010, I want to say they said, which is good on Dabo for that being a thing. But yeah, this is just a bad game. This is a bad year for Clemson offensively. Just did not click. And honestly, this was the K Club Nick I was talking about. But we'll move forward to the UConn Army Bowl, the Fenway Bowl. Now, I'm not going to lie. I didn't watch a lot of this. Army ran away with it. I didn't watch a lot. UConn did score first, and Army did match it. The Army would score again going up 14-7, and UConn would make a field goal before the half. But then Army would score again. Army would outscore UConn 27-6 in the second half. And I kind of turned away from it because, one, the Pop-Tarts Bowl was on, and 2, it was becoming a blowout. So I didn't really care. And plus, UConn was down to QB4. I'm going to just say congratulations to Army for handling their business, getting the job done. And I believe they're 6-1 in bowl games under Jeff Monken. So shout out to him for that. And we're just going to move on to the Pop-Tart Bowl. Nothing really much to talk about in that one. But in the Pop-Tart Bowl, man, this was a really good game. BYU came out, went all the way to 4th and goal at the 1, got stopped, forced Georgia Tech to punt, then finally scored. Georgia Tech would then instantly match. Then BYU would get a field goal. Georgia Tech would score. And then on the ensuing kickoff after the touchdown, BYU would fumble a regular kickoff. He just muffed a regular kickoff. And Georgia Tech got down the field fast enough to recover the fumble. And on the next play would score a touchdown, making it 21-10. And that would be your score going into halftime. But BYU shut out Georgia Tech in the second half, giving up no points. And in the third quarter, neither team scored. But in the fourth quarter, game on the line, BYU will put up a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, and another touchdown to go up 25-21. And then, boy, did this game have an ending. Eric Rivers on 4th and 15 gets past Evan Johnson, and it looked like he might score, but he does not. And then on 4th and goal, Evan Johnson gets redemption and catches the interception to win the ball game for the BYU Cougars, who finishes off a great season, only losing to Texas Tech twice, being 12-2, finishing the season 11-1, but then they played the the championship game, losing that, making them 11-2, and then winning the bowl game, making them 12-2. So 12-win season for BYU. Kalani Sitake deserves a bunch of credit for this season, a great year for the Cougars. Now Georgia Tech, on the other hand, they did lose. I will say this, though. The defense played really good. They played way better than I thought and way better than they have in the season. So shout out to them for that. Next, we have Miami of Ohio versus Fresno State in the Arizona Bowl. And I'm not going to speak too much on this game either. Fresno State would score a field goal in their opening drive, and that'd be it. And then Miami of Ohio, would score a field goal in their opening drive, and that'd be it. Offense really couldn't do much. Fresno State would just beat them death by 1,000 paper cuts, a bunch of field goals at first. Then they score a touchdown to blow the game open, and then they get a field goal for good measure. Miami in the second half they only had one drive over 20 yards on offense. So just could not get any offense going against this Fresno State defense, which I was very surprised about. Not saying that this Miami offense is explosive, but more so that this Fresno State defense, while solid, is not the best. So I felt like they can get something going. Especially how they at least got something going against the Western Michigan defense in the MAC championship, but it was nothing to be done yesterday, for the Miami of Ohio Redhawks, and Fresno State just dominated. So shout out to them for winning the Arizona Bowl in dominant fashion. Now we move on to a game where I thought this was over. The New Mexico Bowl. I did pick San Diego State just like I picked Miami of Ohio, but I did pick BYU and Army. But I did pick San Diego State to win this game because I figured that a ton of points would be scored by San Diego State. What I did not figure, I won't say I didn't figure it because I knew North Texas could put up a bunch of points. I just thought it'd be harder for North Texas to put up this many points. Not this many, but put up a bunch of points. North Texas won 49-47. Now, I'm going to skip to the end. Why? Because coaching blunders yet again strike. And what are you talking about, Carl? South Dakota State had a chance to make this an 8-point game. But instead of kicking the extra point and making it an 8-point game, they went for 2, trying to make it a touchdown game, a 7-point game, a touchdown, an extra point. Did not get it, made it stay a 2-possession game. Why would you go for 2 when you're down 9? There is a difference in between being down 8 and down 9. Now, if you were down 11 or down 12 and you go for 2, okay, there's a difference. There's no difference than being down 11 or being down 12. So you can go for 2 and try to make it 10. But you're down 9. You need the extra point to make it a 1-possession game. Just kick the extra point and force yourself to go for 2 at the end of the game. Now, North Texas scores. North Texas don't score. They made it 49-40. North Texas don't score. And now you run out of time, basically, because you score again, 47-49, but you don't have no time to get the ball back and score again. But if you'd have kicked that extra point, you'd have been down 47-49 with a chance to go for 2 and tie. And then you let the chips fall where they may because you have to go for 2 to tie. So coaching blunders and malpractice cost San Diego State a chance at playing for overtime in the New Mexico Bowl. North Texas would hang on to win 49-47. Now, North Texas did go multiple scores multiple times in this matchup, but again, coaching malpractice by San Diego State at the end of the game ruined the game for the Aztecs. And we move on to the Gator Bowl, which this game was very defensive, which I was I did not see coming from the Virginia side of things. Duke in that ACC championship game was able to run all through Virginia. Now, you could say they only had a week to prepare, but hey, you just played these guys. They didn't do well against you offensively, and then you go stink it up defensively there. So I thought Mizzou actually see, everybody actually see the goats of the goats, the if bowl champion. So I'm like, Mizzou should be able to run the ball. Matt Zola should be make enough throws to win the game. But unfortunately for the Tigers, which I did pick Mizzou, that didn't happen. They only scored a touchdown in their opening drive. Shut out the rest of the game. Could not really do much the rest of the game until the last drive, which they blew that too. But shout out to Virginia. Second half was very efficient on third and fourth down. Mizzou could not get Virginia off the field. Virginia was down 7-3 at halftime, got the ball back after Mizzou did nothing with it, and converted. Third and fourth downs. Did not get off the field all the way to a touchdown. Got another field goal to make it a 6-point game late in the ball game. But Mizzou, again, couldn't do nothing. Ahmad Hardy, he tried his best, but they didn't really feed Ahmad Hardy like that. Jamal Roberts, he got some carries here and there, but they tried to put it all on Matt Zolas, and Matt Zolas failed. He had 45 yards, I think, in the fourth quarter, passing. Just a horrible day at the office for Matt Zolas and his Mizzou offense. And shout out to Virginia and his defense for holding Mizzou to an opening drive touchdown and nothing more as they win the Gator Bowl. And I believe they had one of the best seasons in like quite some time. I want to say they had 10 wins this year. And I had them, or 11, and I had them. I couldn't even find 7 in the preseason. So for that, Hoosiers, I apologize. Not Hoosiers, Wahoos. That's what they call it. Cavaliers. I apologize. In the last game, which was an offensive masterpiece, Houston, who I did pick to win, beats LSU 38-35. Now, LSU started this game hot, but Barry Brown took the opening kickoff like he Devin has to the crib for 6. Took it to the house, and then they would get a stop, get the ball back, and score again. But then Houston cut it on. They would score 21 straight, not on 3 straight drives, but they would score 21 straight to go up 21-14 at halftime. Connor Wegman's balling. Dean Connors is having a game. Tanner Kozio had a good game. He ended up leaving the game hurt. Shout out to him. But they're balling. They get the ball at halftime, don't do much. LSU takes it right back down and scores again. They're tied. But the thing with Houston was every time in the second half LSU would score, they would respond. So then they go up 21. Then LSU ties it at 28. But then Houston would get the ball and score a field goal. LSU doesn't do anything. Houston would take it down and score a touchdown. I believe the Tanner Kozio as well to go up 28. LSU did score with, I want to say, a minute and or maybe some seconds left to make it 38-35. And they have to kick the onside kick because they wasted 2 timeouts. They only have 1 left. And that LSU onside kick was kicked to perfection. The fact that LSU didn't end up with that football has me puzzled still. The ball literally touched 2 LSU players past 10 yards before a Houston player, but Houston ended up with that football recovered by Latrell McCutcheon. Shout out to him. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, that led to Houston winning the Texas Bowl 38-35, and Willie Fritz gets a 10-win season at the University of Houston for his first time at the University of Houston. Again, man, the coach I wanted at MSU, but we got Pat Fitzgerald now. But a great win for the University of Houston in the Texas Bowl. LSU, a tough loss, but hey, you're getting Lane Kiffin, you're getting a lot of offensive pieces and stuff like that. So next year looks promising. But that is all the bowl games I had to go over. Now we're just going to do major performances, and we're going to get up out of here after we do some housekeeping work. So we got about 20 guys on the list. First one, we got Isaac Brown, running back, Louis. Matthew Henry. Oh, I forgot to turn the thing off. Loop track. Matthew Henry, receiver, Western Kentucky, 7 catches, 126 yards. Sia Bangura, running back, Ohio, 19 carries, 149 yards. Jacob DeJesus, receiver, Cal, 9 catches, 137 yards and a touchdown. Oh, Bangura also had a touchdown. Sorry about that, Bangura. Profili Ashlock, receiver, Hawaii, 14 catches, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Darius Taylor, running back, Minnesota, 24 carries, 116 yards and a touchdown. Owen McCown, quarterback, UTSA, 18-28, 295 yards and 3 touchdowns. Carson Ryan, tight end, BYU, 8 catches for 120 yards. Tre'Davious Green, tight end, LSU, 4 catches, 80 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Which, by the way, that one catch he had was an amazing throw by Michael Van Buren. Connor Wegman, quarterback, Houston, 27 to 36, 236 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Dean Connors, running back, Houston, 16 carries, 126 yards, and a touchdown. Caleb Hawkins, running back, North Texas, 30 carries, 198 yards, and 2 touchdowns. His backup, I had to emphasize that because the stats I'm about to say. Ashton Gray, running back, North Texas, 16 carries, 152 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Bert Emanuel, quarterback, San Diego State, who did leave this game hurt. He did leave hurt, and Luke Crum, I want to say his name was, ended up finishing it. He left early, too. He left in the first half or something like that. But he went 4-7, 37 yards, 11 carries, 170 yards, and 2 touchdowns for the quarterback out of San Diego State. Anthony Smith, receiver, ECU, 4 catches, 156 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Trevor Pena, receiver, Penn State, 5 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. Cam Edwards, running back, UConn, 11 carries, 108 yards, and a touchdown. God's Power Waiki, quarterback, Army, 12 carries, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Noah Short, receiver, Army, 7 catches, 108 yards, and a touchdown. Josiah Freeman, receiver, Fresno State, 7 catches, and 143 yards. And that is the end of the bowl week 2 recap. Week 3 starts tomorrow at 2 o'clock. It's basically a Sun Belt game. It's Georgia Southern versus App State. Don't know how interested I am in watching that, to be honest. But I will be going over the bowl games from Monday to Wednesday, not including the playoff game. That would be its own separate episode with Ace. So we're just going to be talking about the bowl game Monday. I believe there's 3 on Wednesday. And I want to say there's like 2 or 3 on Tuesday. And then the bowl games Friday and Saturday will be its own episode. And the playoffs will be its own episode when New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. I believe there's no bowl games on top of the playoffs. That'd be stupid. So I don't think that there are. No, they are not. So we have 3 Tuesday. We have 1 today. We have 4 Wednesday. So we have 8 bowls to go over tomorrow. So make sure you tune in to that. We got Iowa Vanderbilt Wednesday. We got Michigan Texas Wednesday, Tennessee Illinois Tuesday. So again, make sure you tune in for that. And then Friday's bowl games, there are none on Saturday. Friday bowl games, there's 4. Those will be on the Friday morning episode after the playoffs. So please like, comment, share, subscribe so you'll be ready when I go live on CTC by way of the Refuse to Lose Network. Now, again, this is a network, so we have multiple shows. We have the main show featuring Joe, Tomo, and Dave Tuesday and Fridays between 7 and 8:30ish, which means they'll be going live later tonight. Tuesday. Today is Monday technically. We have Unfazed, who normally go live on Tuesdays, but due to like work and scheduling, they have been going live at different days. That's Joe and AJ show. They normally go live 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. So make sure you check them out. BWT, be on the lookout for Baseball with Teddy. When he drops his episodes, we got Fantasy Football with Coach Coombs. The Fantasy Championship, I believe in the R2L Championship, ends tomorrow. I know a lot of people's end tomorrow, and some people are wild and made theirs on week 18. You're wilding if you do that. But make sure you tune in to Coach if you got a wild league that does that. We have RBO, Real Ballers Only. The Pistons might suck again. Oh, we lost again. We got blown out by the Clippers. But it's an NBA show hosted by Vaughn. We got Dave's Doghouse, highlights and lowlights of sport. And we have In the Red Corner featuring Ty, Ricky, and Tomo. Boxing episodes. They go live on Sundays. Not every Sunday, but when they do go live, it is on Sundays. And they go live around 6:30, 7 o'clock. So make sure y'all tune into them for all your boxing needs. Another thing I want to talk about, just want to bring up my records real quick. So overall, I have picked 251 games. I am 162 and 89, which I think that's pretty good. My bowl record is 14-9. Bowl record in week 2 was, I believe, 9-7. So not a really good week 2. I'm not gonna lie. And my college football playoff record is 3-1. So about 500 in all pick'ems. So that's good. College basketball content, we'll start ramping up. Conference play is in effect soon. But y'all know college basketball content picks up when college football season is over. So stay tuned. I do college basketball after college football season, so I can't wait to jump in that as well. And that's all I got to say, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all night. Get you some sleep. I'm about to hit the gym, but this has been CTC. I'm gone. Peace.
Thank you for staying to the end. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe, and also hit that notification button so you can be notified next time we put out a video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, subscribe and hit that notification button, y'all, so you can be notified we put out another podcast audio. And last but not least, hit that share button. No matter what you're listening to or watching it, hit that share button and send it to somebody that you know that would love to watch this episode you just listened to. So once again, thank you for staying to the end, and we'll see y'all in the next episode.